Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum. Welcome to 2nd Chronicles chapter 15. I'm going to try to adjust my voice so that it's not too loud, but not too quiet either. So I'm having some sound issues when I'm too close to the microphone. There are 19 verses in this chapter. We're doing a re-recording because I made a mistake in the last recording, so this will replace the previous session. Beginning in verse 2, there's an omission of the names Judah and Benjamin. Verse 3, expound the truth versus teaching priest. Verse 4, he, who could be the priest, most likely, or Hashem, shall turn them versus when they in their trouble did turn. So this is talking about something that occurred in the past in history, but in the Septuagint, this is prophetic, future. So let me denote that. Prophecy. Next is will be found. He will be found of them versus he was found. Verse 5, terror of Hashem versus great vexations. So that is an interesting expression. This is the terror of Hashem. It's not simply being vexed in a great way. Nonetheless, verse 6, fight against versus destroyed. Confounded versus vexed, which can mean confuse, discomfit, or destroy. With every kind of affliction versus adversity. We see the name Hadad being used versus Oded. Strengthened himself versus took courage. There's an addition of idols. It says here Jeroboam possessed, talking about the cities, not being demonically possessed, versus he, most likely Asa, had taken. Talks about the temple versus the porch. Verse 9, with him versus them. So Asa in the Septuagint versus them, talking about all of Israel, or at least more than just Asa. Joined to him versus fell to him. So they joined him using their free will, their freedom of choice, versus they were added to him, or they fell to him by default, or they perhaps were even defeated by him. Verse 11, in that day versus the same time. So simultaneously. Verse 12, he versus they. And verse 13, talking about the government officials. This is not a difference, but more of an expository. Just wanted to make a comment that if we read this verse, let's do that. Verse 13, and that whoever should not seek Hashem, Elohim of Israel, should die, whether young or old, whether man or woman. So notice they made this covenant that they should seek Hashem, Elohim of their fathers, with all their heart and with all their soul. And if you don't, you would suffer the death penalty. So I've heard it said, especially by government officials, presidents, prime ministers, whatever, they say that you cannot legislate morality, that there is a separation of church and state. In my opinion, this is destructive to a people and to their culture, more specifically, to their heritage. Why? Because I believe religion is the heart and essence of a people and their identity, their origin, their way of life, and even their legacy into eternity, which is represented by their children carrying on that same way of life. Again, just my opinion, but I think this is a very good thing to not separate church and state, that they should be one, and morality should be legislated, specifically the Torah. And we see that happening in the Middle East, where they're legislating various moral codes. Verse 14, an addition of with shouting. Verse 16, this is the focus of this video, the thumbnail. You will see priestess of this name. I'm not going to say it. That's why I'm re-recording, because I made a mistake. Shouldn't have said that name. So that is our thumbnail. We can zoom in, and you can see it in more detail. There it is. So this is AI generated, but I found it, they did a good job with the AI. And then I put the name there. There are multiple names. We'll look into this more in depth. So this is a big difference. In the Septuagint, it recognizes her as this priestess of this false Elohim, starts with an A. But strangely enough, the Masoretic makes no mention of that. It just says he removed her from being queen, removing that sort of insidious connection, not even connection, just status, who she was, what position she held. Let's explore this a little further. So we can see the video that I posted, which I'm going to replace promptly, is actually getting hits on Google. It's showing up as a search result. And if we look at this name, there are multiple names for this false Elohim. And even this name can mean groves, I believe, depending on how you would interpret it. So, and many names in different cultures. I'm not going to repeat them or pronounce them. But it says they were a consort pair in ancient Palestine and Judah. Others disagree. I'm really trying to look for the other names that connect with, here, this is the one I'm looking for. So this false Elohim, the Hellenized form of the ancient Near Eastern goddess, again, I'm not going to say it, starts with an A. This Elohim was the Northwest Semitic equivalent of the East Semitic goddess, starts with an I. And this, interestingly enough, this false Elohim has a feast that still exists and is kept by a lot of people today. Millions of people still keep that feast, although they don't associate it with that feast. But that name is preserved in that feast's name. And we're probably going to see it. It says the Queen of Heaven is the title of this goddess of Mesopotamia, ancient Mesopotamia. We're going to see major cult by the Assyrians, and it's still, this worship has been preserved somewhat, although replaced with a Christian sort of coding. Okay, now I'm just going to do a search and you will see what I'm getting at. There. Oh, that's not it. No. I'm looking for that. Easter. I'm looking for Easter. Here it is. English word Easter must be derived from this name due to the phonetic similarity. So that is one. You know what? That's from Alexander Hislop. I don't know if I can take that as being factual anymore. I feel like that became a little blown up. Maybe that's wrong. I don't know. Maybe that is actually wrong. It could be wrong. But phonetically, it is interesting. I'm not sure if that is a preservation of that worship. But how did they worship this false god? It's better not to learn, in all honesty. We can do a little bit of a research. I don't want to do too much of a deep dive into this. But regardless, this is a fertility false god from Babylon. This is a Babylonian god, Assyrian Babylonian. It talks about descent into the underworld. The city of Uruk, various poems and various myths, and even connections to the Epic of Gilgamesh, Sumerian texts that date from 2000 BC and earlier. So there is so much, as you can see, so much information on this false Elohim. And interestingly enough, the mother, sorry about the sound, I try not to trigger the sound, the microphone to be too loud. That's why I'm talking this way. So the mother of this king, okay, I forgot his name right now, but the mother's name is Maachah. Okay, and she was a priestess of this false Elohim. He removed his mother from being priestess. So who is this? Is this Asa? I think it's Asa, yeah. Asa's mother was a priestess of this false Elohim. So if we look again at, there's a Jewish source, but there's nothing in terms of her being a priestess. It just says she worshipped that Elohim. So Maachah is the father of Asa, king of Judah, which is problematic, okay? She's alleged to be the mother of Asa's father. It says Asa removed her from her position as great lady after she makes a cult object associated with the goddess, again starts with an A. So that is the claim, because she made an idol. And that what I'm presenting in this video is that no, it's a lot more than that. She was a priestess. She had an official position in that false religion. She was a priestess of that. You could even say maybe a sort of a high priest in a way, but a female version. She was a priestess. We don't know how high that goes. We don't know how involved she was, but that is a very insidious thing, and that has been covered up in the Masoretic text. So that's why I want to stress that. So that is pretty much the focus of this video. And it says here, he cut down the idol, okay? So the Masoretic says that she had made an idol in a grove. So that was added to the narrative. We don't know if that's factual, but there was an idol in the grove indeed, but it doesn't say that she made it. Maybe she did. That's speculation, but it was cut down. That's what Asa did. And he stamped it according to the Masoretic. He cut it down and burnt it in the brook of Kidron. So yeah, she was associated with that worship system. And I think that's the end of that story. So verse 17. This is an interesting thought to ponder, because people, believers, Jewish, Christian, whatever, they will say, be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. What does that mean? Never making a mistake? No, it means this. The heart of Asa was perfect all his days. Doesn't mean he never made a mistake, because we know he did make mistakes. It says that in both versions. What does it mean to be perfect? Well, the footnote reads full or complete. So his heart was full or complete all his days. Doesn't mean he never made a mistake. It means that his heart was in it wholeheartedly. It was complete. There was nothing in terms of being done half-heartedly. He did it with his whole heart, with all his effort. We could reword it and say he gave his full effort. He gave his best, maximum effort. He just gave it all. He gave it all. And that's the way we should approach our relationship and our worship of Hashem. To give our best effort, our wholehearted, everything, our being. It says in the Shema, you're to love Hashem with all your mind or heart, with all your strength and all your soul. So that's what he did. His heart was full. He gave his whole, his fullness. He worshipped Hashem with all his heart. So it was perfect in that sense, not perfect in the sense like Mashiach Yehoshua was, that he never committed sin. It wasn't that way of perfect. So that is a false idea, but is better understood when we understand that perfect doesn't mean perfect like flawless. It means complete, was full. So he gave his full effort. He didn't do it half-heartedly or, lackadaisically. Yeah, we tend to slip here and there, but he gave a full, honest effort. Verse 18, holy things versus dedicated. Holy. And then there's an omission of the house of Elohim. And that's it for this chapter. So thank you very much for your time. Again, this is a re-recording. I'm going to replace that original video and insert the other names just so that it can show up in the search results. Not that we want to give any glory to these false Elohim, but that is a very interesting, I guess you could say, rabbit hole we ventured down. So thank you very much for your time. Till next time, I bid you all shalom aleichem, assalamu alaikum, irini mazisu, pax vobiscum. Peace be unto you, and Maranatha.